The world has come to know the name Navy Joan Roberts. She's a 5-year-old little girl now, and she's the granddaughter of the sitting president of the United States, Joe Biden. That is something that the Biden family refused to acknowledge, at least publicly, until July of last year. And here to tell us more about this entire saga is the mother of that child. Lunden Roberts joins us. She's written a new book. It's called Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. Ms. Roberts, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's just start with the opening question we often ask people who write books. Why did you write this one?
Okay. Well, there's several reasons I wrote it. I think reading the book, you'll see it's a healing journey, and it's a long journey in wild chaos, dark times, good times. And, I think it would impact any woman who finds themselves in a situation, where they become pregnant. Instead of it being a joyous time, you become like this burden and this scandal. And it's, it takes you to dark places. But, the book comes out, it's released August 20th, and my daughter's birthday is August 28th, and it's solely dedicated to my daughter. And I don't know what better gift I could give my daughter for her birthday this year than her mother's story.
And she's 5 years old now, correct?
Correct. She'll be 6 in August.
Five's a great age. Was one of the cutest ages. They're walking, they're talking, they're asking questions, and she just must be a joy.
Oh, absolutely. She is into absolutely everything.
So is she, and I, it's hard for me sometimes to remember, at 5 years old, is she cognizant of any of the elements of this? Like, does she know that her grandfather is the president of the United States?
Yes, she does. And another thing about her, like, for example, this was her last year of preschool, and they had claimed that if she would have went to kindergarten, she would have been advanced, even though she would have been the youngest one. Like, she's very, very intelligent for her age.
That's fantastic. But she just knows some of the basics, though. I imagine you do your best to insulate her from all of the drama surrounding your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you just, so for my knowledge, I wonder, your relationship with Hunter Biden, how long was it? How long did you know him? Did you really get to know him at any point?
Yes, I get to know him, and throughout the book, I talk about that relationship with him, and which lead to some crazy stories and some sad stories. But it's over a year I had known him until I got pregnant.
And so it was after you became pregnant that he decided that he really didn't want to be a part of your life anymore, and I presume in light of your pregnancy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. At that point, I think, and he was in a dark place going through his addiction and battling that. He's been very candid about it. And so I think that was at a time where he just made a lot of bad choices. And I think personally that was one of them.
Was he worried at all about this child being born?
No, he didn't seem worried. When I told him, he claimed that he would be emotionally supportive and spiritually, financially, whatever it took, he'd be by me. And whatever decision I made, he would respect that. He even at one point claimed that there would be no way he could have a child out there and not be in its life.
Oh, so he said that, should you carry this child to term, he would be there to support it?
Absolutely.
So did he ever encourage you to not carry her to term? Did he ever suggest that you should abort her?
He did not.
Okay.
He did not. He solely put it on, it was my choice as a woman.
Yeah.
He did that.
Now you mentioned that he said he would be there to support Navy, but he wasn't. You had to go to court in order to fight to get him to be supportive of your child. What was that? What was that like to have to go through that? I mean, I was just checking recently. The Biden family is estimated to be worth about in the tens of millions of dollars. It must have drove you crazy to have to even go to court to fight for that.
It did, and my main goal, I say, is accountability. It wasn't even about money. At this point, this is a child that you have denied and or are denying to my friends. And my friends are like, Hunter, it's yours. And he's like, yeah, I know, I need to take responsibility. But publicly denying, and then, having to say he had no recollection of me. This was more about taking accountability was for the paternity suit. I wanted him to take that DNA test and take that accountability.
So you mentioned, of course, that Hunter has gone through well-documented issues with drugs and all sorts of dark places that most of us hopefully never go to. But
right.
his parents simultaneously, Joe and Jill Biden, they too went out of their way to really not acknowledge the existence of their granddaughter. It wasn't until July of last year in People magazine that they came along and they said, yes, Navy does exist and she's our granddaughter. What did you make of that?
I couldn't understand it because having a child, I can't imagine, not being in that child's life, or, a grandchild not being in that child's life. And I didn't understand because I felt like it would be, a feather in his cap to acknowledge a child and, love her publicly. And the dismissal, I don't understand. And I can't speak on their behaviors and why they chose to do what, they had done. But I was also advised by my attorney that a lot of times grandparents won't step into that role until their son does. And their son takes responsibility for fathering the child.
Yeah, but
so
I know it was rough. The one thing that so many of us saw from the outside was the decision not to include Navy among the names on the Christmas stockings, which is apparently a tradition that they've abandoned altogether after acknowledging Navy's existence. Last Christmas, they no longer placed family stockings. Did that affect you as you saw that?
Oh, it absolutely. And this book that I've written, Coming Out of the Shadows, it talks about so many emotions poured into each chapter, and there are emotions, there is hurt, there's disappointment, there is not being able to understand, I guess, a lot of choices that were made on the other side, and it was very hurtful, to say the least.
Has anyone from that world reached out to you at all? Meaning, my understanding, I think you've said in an interview recently, perhaps with Piers Morgan, that President Biden has never once communicated with your daughter. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, sir.
So even to this day, no communication. And I assume the same is true for Jill Biden?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So has anyone from the White House or anyone around Biden communicated with you since they acknowledged Navy's existence in July of last year?
Just Hunter.
Oh, so Hunter did reach out to you after the People magazine piece?
Hunter reached out to me after we had our child support dispute. I believe it was last year, and we settled it. When the two of us got together for the first time, I showed up at his deposition, and it was the Thursday or Friday before Father's Day, and I let Navy make him something for Father's Day. I had 5 years worth of pictures of her, and I showed up and shocked him by showing up to his deposition, and I gave him this box of things. And, at one point, he says, let's sit down and let's talk. And we did. We went into a room, we sat down, and that's where we settled everything. We went through this box of Navy stuff, and shared laughs and cries and everything else. And he, since then, has stepped in as far as he Zoom calls her.
Oh, he does.
He does.
So on some sort of routine basis, he'll Zoom call and talk to his daughter.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This saga has just been just unbelievable. I can't even imagine living through it. Do you expect at some point that the Bidens will begin to have a relationship with you? Do you wonder if it's perhaps going to be after the presidency is concluded?
I'm not sure, and it's not so much a relationship with me. I would co-parent with Hunter and hope for the best for our daughter, but she deserves grandparents that love her on both sides, and parents that love her on both sides. Hunter and his wife stepping in and loving her. Like, what more could I want as a mother than the paternal side loving her just as much as the maternal side does.
Yeah.
You can't have enough people to love your child. And if they'll step in and be, good influences in her life, then that's something I would never deny.
Yeah, and I know you're coming at this from a position of hope that this can all come together, and I respect you for that. I have to say, though, one of the things that I've been very critical of is I don't understand how a grandfather who professes to be a devout Catholic couldn't possibly be a part of the life of his granddaughter. That has been maddening, and I do think, perhaps you agree, it says something about his character that he wouldn't step up and just be there for that child.
I agree. I think that also, throughout the book, I talk about continuously having this hope and then continuously being let down or seemingly slapped in the face and my heart breaking over and over again for my daughter. And I don't understand it.
Lunden Roberts, I also want to ask you about some of the scary things that you've been detailing both in the book and in some of the interviews you've done. I heard you say to Megyn Kelly, you were talking about how your phones appeared to be messed with simultaneously, that there were some issues with your phones and they both seemed to go down at the same time and have some sort of distortions on them at the same moment. And you also have talked about how your home has been broken into on some sort of routine basis. Can you give us a sense of what's happening and do you feel safe? Are you concerned about your safety?
Well, I stay fully loaded, fully strapped. So I think that we're pretty safe. But no, there have been times in the middle of the night that Navy and I have been woken up out of our sleep, and there's been someone in the house, and I've called my dad, and he's been here, and like they'll have things in the house changed and moved, like, for example, all the bar stools moved to the other side of the room in like these separate locations, and like just different things as if like to let you know someone was there. It's like it was like a scare tactic, and I don't know who or why would do things like that. But I mean, yeah, it was scary, but I keep myself fully loaded at all times and ready to protect us.
Is it, when I referenced the phones, is it true that you've had data involving Hunter Biden erased from, what is it, your iCloud or your phones?
Yes, when both of my phones crashed and at the same time. And my friend pointed it out to me, and it was just crazy. The screens had those, like, the green and pink or purple lines all over them. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm trying to turn them back on. It's not working. And, the next day I go get a new phone. And when we updated it to my iCloud, it had erased a lot of things, but a lot of things, everything containing anything with Hunter.
So anything involving Hunter Biden, it was all erased from your iCloud account?
Yes.
Can I ask what kind of things you might have had? Were these photographs of him or messages from him? What sort of things are we talking about?
Yeah, it was mostly like pictures or messages. I believe all our messages were gone. There was no call log. There was nothing like that. Like all that was just completely erased from the phone.
Do you recall when that occurred?
To update, to go back, and I mean, it wasn't just him. I lost a lot of stuff, but particularly anything I had of him at that point.
And so I imagine, because it sounds like foul play, that you suspect foul play. Somebody did this to you.
You hear the conspiracy theories, and you always wonder, and I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but that day I thought, what just happened? I'm sitting there with, two of my closest friends, and I described this entire story throughout the book where I'm just like, is it a coincidence that the day I find out I'm pregnant, this happens? And if so, if this is somebody looking out for him, protecting him, how far will they go?
I'm sorry, I just want to emphasize the point you just made. It was the day you found out you were pregnant that your phones went down?
Yes, sir. It was that night.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, if that happened to me, I would start believing in the conspiracy theories too. I just want to put it that way. Finally, Lunden Roberts, in light of all of this, I don't know if you have any sort of a desire to vote in the presidential election, but is there a horse you're picking in this race?
Oh, I don't know. Is there a horse you're picking?
Trump. Just to be clear, I won't cover it up. It's going to be Trump. What about in your case, Lunden?
I think, I think I have a big decision to make. I have to honor the fact of who my child's grandfather is, but, you also have to think about that. That's also a painful reminder when, it's constant unacknowledgement and seemingly slaps in the face. So that's a tough question, right?
Yeah. In other words, there's a scenario where you can vote for Donald Trump this year.
Do what?
In other words, there is a scenario where you might vote for Donald Trump this year.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe you'll withhold a vote. All right. Lunden Roberts, thank you very much. The new book is Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden. Thank you so much for your time.